G'day history lovers, it's me, Random History, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the up and coming Netflix series, Vikings Valhalla. I know this is a bit different from my usual content, so if you want to just skip this video and wait for another one of my proper ones, I understand. But I just thought I'd make this one for a bit of fun, and to get a few of your guys' opinions as well. It does end up being a little bit of a rant, but just bear with me please. But with all that being said, let's get right into the video. For those of you who don't know, Vikings Valhalla is basically a Vikings spin-off series set around 100 years after the end of Vikings, which will show the downfall of the Vikings and how they all eventually converted to Christianity. I love the idea of this show. As you guys can probably tell from my video topics, I'm a big fan of this part of history, especially concerning England. I think it has so much potential, and I can't wait to see the Battle of Stamford Bridge on the screen, which is speculated to happen around the end, or at the end of the series, as that's what a lot of people agree was the last big Viking raid, or last notable Viking event. I believe it's possible it could also show the Battle of Hastings, but I wouldn't put my money on it, considering that doesn't really involve the Vikings, unless you look at it from a sort of roundabout way, because William the Conqueror was indeed Rollo's great-great-great-grandson, and Rollo was featured a lot in the main series. The only thing that I believe could ruin this show, for me, is potentially making it too woke. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, oh, well, what do you mean by that? What I mean is I would hate if it just spat in the face of real historical accuracy in favour of making it more friendly towards modern cultural standards. Unfortunately, I believe this has already happened to an extent, with them casting a black actress to play Jarl Hakon, but I'll get more into that later. I've never been a fan of pushing our modern understanding of things into a show that's meant to be historical, as it depicts a fake history which was never a reality. I know some people might say, oh, it doesn't matter because the people that watch this show will know it's not accurate, but I don't think they do. The sad fact is that a lot of people take this show, the same as the original Vikings, for historic fact, without looking further into it. I think if you're going to make a show based on historical events, you have a duty to keep it accurate to an extent. I'm not saying they need to make sure they get every single piece of armor correct for the time period, although they need to cast actors that look exactly like the real people, because that would just be tedious. I know the original show Vikings had some of these issues where people were complaining about how some of the armor wasn't realistic, and how Ragnar, Rollo, Floki, and Björn weren't related, and most likely never actually met each other. I don't, however, think that really matters all that much, as they were still based off of real people, and they were depicted relatively well from what I can gather. What I do have an issue with, though, is them casting a black actress to play a real Jarl, when we know for a fact that he was a man, not a woman, was not black, and was indeed Scandinavian. Not to mention the fact that it's unlikely from what I've been able to gather that the Vikings ever even met black people, let alone had them live in their society long enough for them to become Jarls. Not to mention the fact that it's a woman, which would have been very difficult, if not impossible back then by itself, even if you were Scandinavian. I know a lot of people might have just heard that and think I'm a flaming racist now, but I'm not. At least, I don't think I am. I have no problem with the actor, and I'm sure she'll do a fine job regardless, but I feel like if they're going to make a historical show and they want to make it as woke as possible, why not fit the black people into roles where it'd make sense, if they are still trying to keep it a historical show? Like, I don't know, a trader for example. It is 100 times more likely that there would have been a black trader or merchant in Scandinavia than a black female Jarl. Look, I'm all for inclusiveness, but it has its limits. When you're filming a historical show, you need to keep the characters as true to their real life counterparts as possible, in my opinion, and this goes for all people groups. I think if a show is set in Egypt, the actor should be Egyptian, to keep with the realism, and if it's set in Nigeria, the actor should be Nigerian, etc, etc. I don't know if you guys have seen the main Viking show, but when Bjorn and Harold's brother were around in the Middle East, walking around, did you see any white people in the Arabian crowd? No. But now they think it's okay to put a black person into the Scandinavian crowd. It just seems like a double standard to me. Besides, I think it's actually an insult to insert these people groups into shows where they don't belong in a historical context, because it implies that people, especially Africans, have no real history worthy of their own TV shows, which is just wrong. I would love to see a Vikings-like TV show set in historical Africa, maybe about pirates or something like that. I think that would be phenomenal. But instead it seems they're hell-bent on just pushing black people into shows where their presence makes little, if any, sense. If it was just this, it'd be fine, but what worries me is this won't be the last thing the showrunners do in the name of inclusiveness, I guarantee it. I swear to God, if they cast my man, Harold Godwinson, as a black transgender man, I will literally not watch the show. Because historical TV shows are, shockingly, meant to be historical, and having a black female Jarl in Scandinavia just isn't. Like I've said previously, if I was black, I'd actually be mad at this, because surely forcing Africans into roles where they don't make sense does indeed imply that they have no history worthy of their own show, right? This show has so much potential, and I'd hate to see it ruined by the directors seeking to make the Vikings LGBTQ+ friendly. Phew, now that's over and done, I think we're going to talk about some stuff a little bit less controversial. I think one thing about this show that'll be really interesting is to see how they do the family structure, particularly in England. Will they keep it 100% historically accurate, or will they sort of mix people up from different time periods like in the original show? I hope they keep a historically accurate family tree, especially for Harold Godwinson, as I'm sure you guys could probably tell, I'm a huge admirer of him and his brothers, so I hope they keep them in, although I believe they'll most likely cut out a few of them. I hope they don't, but I think they will probably cut out Girth and Leofwine from the show, as they aren't as noticeable and wouldn't really add any value to the show, unless they're trying to make the Battle of Stamford Bridge more dramatic, as there would be more of Tostig's brothers fighting against him. Speaking of Tostig, I think it's pretty much a certain that they'll have him in if they have the Battle of Stamford Bridge in, as there's no way they could do it without mentioning him. I'm also interested in seeing whether they show the Battle of Hastings, although if I had to put my money on it, I'd say they won't, especially due to the budget I can imagine them using up on Stamford Bridge. In summary though, I just hope they keep it as historically accurate as possible. Unfortunately, I don't think they will, but only time will tell, as it's coming out in February, I believe. Alright guys, that's going to be it for this video. I know this was a bit of a different one, but if you did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe nonetheless. Also, if you had any suggestions for future videos, make sure to leave those in the comments, as well as your thoughts on the up and coming show, as I love to hear what you guys think. Anyways, with all that being said, I hope you have a good day, night, wherever you are, and I'll see you guys in the next one.